don't just happen, we make them happen. So
For these institutions to
Come on
intensify their
outside now,
programming
Daddy.
efforts.
I
never let a
know
good
you don't want me to
crisis
have.
go to waste. And when crises don't just happen, we make them happen. Something like that, right?
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
Crises don't just happen, we make them happen. Something like that, right?
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you
Crises don't just happen, we make them happen. Something like that, right?
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that,
Programming
Come outside
efforts.
and talk.
Never let a good crisis go to waste.
She said she was coming
And when
over. She
crises
ain't come
don't just
home.
happen,
Not
we
now.
make
She
them
been
happen.
here.
Something like that, right?
you never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
So let's you.
Who has any love or respect for individual rights. So when Americans are confused as to why their own government would ever try to harm them, they either don't understand the nature of evil, or they don't grasp how priceless the Bill of Rights
Notice
actually are.
cabal,
They are the
as in
bane of the
Kabbalah.
globalist tyrants who seek to control all of humanity. We could trace this conspiracy of tyrants all the way back to the 18th century, but we'll begin with the year that gave birth to the Federal Reserve Bank and Big Pharma. In 1910, the Carnegie Foundation published the Flexner Report, which directly led to the shutting down of natural traditional medicine and gave way for the Rockefellers to patent and monopolize the medicine industry. That same year, Rothschild banking dynasty's Paul Warburg, along with high-ranking members of U.S. banking and government, met in secret to hatch a plan that would financially rob every single American citizen for generations to come. Fractional reserve banking was considered a scam for centuries. This changed in 1913 with the Federal Reserve banking system. Fractional reserve banking became the norm, regulated by the Fed. The Federal Reserve was also given the task of managing the U.S. debt, otherwise known as inflation, the hidden tax where the Fed gets to bail out members of their criminal cabal while everyone else suffers.
Cabal.
Meanwhile, their families created their own
Kabbalah.
interest-free banks, utilizing what's known as a whole life insurance policy and family trusts, keeping their own wealth safely out of the Federal Reserve System. A banking system that gave this cabal unlimited funds to wage war against all of humanity. In 1921, after years of meeting in secret, the Round Table Movement, a group that sought to reunify America with the Crown, and the Harvard Business School, merged factions to become the Council on Foreign Relations, a think tank allowing bankers and industrialists the opportunity to engineer government policy and discreetly undermine American democracy. In 1942, the OSS was formed by the cabal as an intelligence agency to fight the war.
Hi, my name is Merlin, and if you stick around for just 15 seconds, I'll show you a new online software that generates automated income from
OSS member Alan Dulles went on to help create the CIA in 1947, who immediately began seizing control of the worldwide illicit drug market, starting with trade in Sicily. The CIA's reputation speaks for itself. They are the world's biggest cartel, overthrower of nations, and purveyors of propaganda and MK Ultra. The globalist cabal has these intelligence groups in all of their nations, with no oversight, using them as a secret army to carry out their agenda. In 1944, the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund were created under the guise of fostering global growth, followed by the United Nations in 1945. What they actually did was work together to violently seize control of entire nations. The World Bank trained people known as economic men to make a simple offer to world leaders on their behalf: either accept a massive loan designed to bankrupt their nation or be killed. And many were. The game is simple: conquer by debt. The Federal Reserve banking system does it to every individual, and the World Bank and IMF do it to every nation. Once indebted to these crooked institutions, they lose control over their own destiny. The only difference between the mafia and this globalist cabal is scale. Starting in 1951, Henry Kissinger founded and directed the Harvard International Seminar. Funded by Kissinger through grants from private foundations known to be fronts for the CIA, the Harvard International Seminar was yet another group of globalist leaders coming together to discuss the future of a one-world government. The first documented meeting of the infamous Bilderberg Group was in 1954, but it would take the public 50 years to become aware of them. In 1955, the Bilderberg Group privately discussed plans for the European Union and the Euro, 38 years before their creation, slowly making their way into a one-world government controlled by their own interests.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
After they assassinated JFK, the agenda went into overdrive. Destructive leftist programs under the guise of welfare were deployed, making more and more people dependent upon big government. In 1971, the UN votes to admit Communist China and expel Taiwan, lighting a spark that leads to world war. UN Ambassador George H.W. Bush accompanies Henry Kissinger to open up business with the CCP. That same year, a young Klaus Schwab, son of a Nazi industrialist and protege of Henry Kissinger, formed the World Economic Forum, replacing and expanding Kissinger's International Seminar. The World Economic Forum is made up of 1,000 corporate entities, represented by a consensus of 100, the same exact entities that make up the Bilderberg Group, because they are one and the same. As the World Economic Forum, this group of power-hungry parasites goes public and gradually begins to normalize their agenda for world domination. In 1974, Kissinger drafts National Security Study Memorandum 200, wherein he calls for worldwide depopulation. And a year later, it becomes official U.S. policy. During the 1980s, the CIA sold to Los Angeles street gangs to fund an illegal war, while Big Pharma tens of thousands of Americans with AZT and lies. In the 90s, they began spinning the outrageous lie that the loyal, patriotic American is a domestic while drafting more globalist policies such as NAFTA. In 1992, Klaus Schwab established the Global Leaders for Tomorrow School, later re-established as the Young Global Leaders. Attendees include all the major players. In 1992, Bill Gates was the head of a computer software company. He attended Klaus Schwab's Globalist Leader Schools in 1993, and in 1994, he begins his life in scientific research and global health with the formation of the William H. Gates Foundation, which later became the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Gates's so-called philanthropic efforts revolved around human depopulation